Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity to stand here in front of you and tell you about my experience as a registered nurse, clinical nurse specialist in the remote and rural sector of New South Wales in Australia. Bullying in nursing, let's go there. There are a few things in my life, first and foremost, that I'm really proud of. My 3 children, Andrew, Holly and Chelsea, my grandson George, and grandbaby number 2, who will arrive in August this year. As well as this though, I have embarked on a career in nursing. In the late 90s, when my children reached an age where I felt comfortable to go back to work, I progressed from an assistant in nursing to enrolled nurse, then registered nurse, before achieving postgraduate qualifications in mental health nursing, a field in which I was drawn to and very passionate about. And I also gained great professional and personal satisfaction from working with people in acute mental episodes. All of my study was completed by a combination of on-the-job experience and external studies. I worked from 2001 at the Broken Hill Base Hospital, and during this time was recognised as a clinical nurse specialist within the mental health inpatient unit. Despite many career positives, not the least of which was finding a career that I actually adored and loved, I soon discovered a side to nursing and the broader health system which is shameful, and which, despite the personal cost to me and the degree to which the abuse and issues have been swept under the carpet, I am determined to raise awareness of and to seek a meaningful and positive solutions to. On November the 7th, 2009, a nursing colleague turned up to work completely intoxicated. She appeared to have been the victim of domestic abuse the night before up at the nursing quarters, and was so intoxicated that she thought she was okay to come into work and do her shift. She had even attempted to put makeup on despite having several huge gashes in her face. I sent her off to the ED, where she ended up having sutures in her face. That's how drunk she was. I had to report the incident as per hospital policy and my obligations as a clinical nurse specialist. On the 16th of November 2009, I had a meeting with the senior manager into my report into the incident on the 7th of November 2009, and amongst other issues, staff morale issues amongst nurses within the Broken Hill Base Hospital. It was this discussion about staff morale that I believe was the catalyst for what happened to me over the next few years. I had a frank discussion about the bullying behaviours of a particular nurse within the hospital. Unfortunately for me and many others, the nurse in question was a relative of the senior manager I was speaking to. She was in actual fact the senior manager's sister. I was aware that by raising the matter, it was going to be an uncomfortable conversation that we were having. We're 2 mature adults, we are professionals, we had the conversation. But at this time, I believed that the senior manager would be able to have a constructive and confidential discussion, and that this would give her the opportunity to talk and counsel her sister about her bullying behaviours towards other health professionals within the Broken Hill Hospital. With the benefit of hindsight, it was the beginning of the end for me within this health service. On the 27th of January 2010, I received a letter from the senior manager saying that someone had made a complaint against me. I was asked to respond to a number of allegations, all of which were baseless. I was shocked and felt that I was now being punished for having raised an issue of concern to many other nurses within the health service. I responded to the baseless allegations, and not satisfied, the senior manager then sent letters to every single member of staff working under me, including an agency nurse who had this disgusting letter about my conduct for 4 days before we even worked together. This now meant that the senior manager had breached my confidentiality. So I only found out that this had happened when an anonymous member of the nursing team put a copy of their letter into my letterbox. The person obviously felt that there was something wrong about the process. So I then decided to challenge the senior manager's allegations and actions, but received a letter on the 12th of March, I'll never forget the letter, to say that I had been found guilty on the balance of probabilities, the usual tactic, of breaching the privacy and confidentiality of the nurse that I had sent to ED for sutures who turned up to work drunk. At this point, I sought legal advice and the matter quickly escalated to the Workforce Directorate of New South Wales Health. I reviewed the complaint and investigation process was undertaken, and I expressed concern that having taken on a senior manager, I would be facing some severe reprisals. I was assured that the New South Wales health policy would protect me from reprisal. Yes, exactly. On the 29th of April 2010, I received a formal letter of apology from the Workforce Directorate stating that the handling of the complaint to me was significantly flawed to the extent that I was not afforded procedural fairness or natural justice. I was offered the sincere apologies of the Greater Western Area Health Service. When I returned to work, the unit was in a dysfunctional state. An agency nurse was in the position of acting nurse unit manager. I was told by staff and personally witnessed incidents of bullying behaviour by another agency nurse, best friend to the acting agency nurse. A junior nurse told me she'd witnessed this agency nurse falsifying a medication chart. She was fearful of what would happen to her if she reported the matter, but I reminded her of her obligations under the Code of Conduct and she submitted her IMS report. Another agency nurse had, over a period of months, been submitting IMS reports also to highlight unsafe work practices within the mental health inpatient unit. She had quickly become a target of the bully nurse. And around the same time, the non-smoking in New South Wales hospital policy was introduced and quickly became a catalyst for splitting between staff and clients. The acting NUM regularly undermined those of us who implemented the policy by letting clients leave the hospital without authorisation from the psychiatrist, scheduled mental health clients going outside of the hospital to smoke. So this inconsistent approach to the policy led, in my belief, to an increase in violent episodes directed at nurses who implemented the policies correctly. I could literally give you account after account of incidents within the unit which put staff and clients at risk. For the purposes of this forum, I am highlighting two particular events to demonstrate how systematic failures have put health professionals in harm's way, including me. In April 2011, two things happened. First thing, I submitted an application for the position of the regular nurse unit manager within the mental health inpatient unit at Broken Hill. I never received a response to my application because I believe of the other thing that happened on that day, April the 1st, 2011. I had to attend the Broken Hill courthouse to put in place an AVO against a client who had threatened to go to my house and burn it down with me and my children in it. This was the client's second threat to kill me in 2 consecutive days. And when she included my children into the threat, I knew I had to take action. I was ridiculed by some nursing colleagues, the acting NUM, the bully friend, and a junior nurse who believed that seeking an AVO against a mentally ill client was not nice. I had spoken at length with the clinical director of psychiatry, who was totally supportive of my decision to enact the AVO. To give some history, the client actually knew where I lived. I wasn't in the phone book for obvious reasons, and had come to my home on a previous occasion. On that occasion, when I asked how she found out where I lived, she told me another staff member had told her where I lived. The client was also known to police, had threatened and physically assaulted the consultant psychiatrist, and was involved 9 weeks after I took out the AVO of the same year in an overnight gun siege with police. So my decision was not made lightly. There was credible threat to my safety and, more importantly, the safety of my children. When I made the AVO application, a junior nurse, formerly a friend and someone I had mentored through her mental health training, took exception to my decision. We had disagreed previously on a decision made by me to remove a soft toy from a client who was known for secreting dangerous items, including razor blades and thumbtacks, and she'd get them into units in different hospitals through the toy, take them out, swallow them, and end up having major abdo surgery. On this occasion, this junior nurse, the former friend, lodged a complaint against me for my interactions in relation to the taking of the toy and taking out the AVO against this patient. She applied for non-position after the non-position had expired and got the position, even though she was less qualified than myself. I was overlooked for the position because a complaint had been submitted against me and I was now suspended pending investigation. The client whom I applied for the AVO was arrested in 2012 outside my house, shortly 1 month after cessation of the first AVO. She turned up at my home in her car, waiting outside there for 2 hours, verbally and physically and all the rest, abusing me to the extent the police were called. Police applied for an extension of the AVO on my behalf, and I found out through court transcripts when the third AVO, so 3 full years of AVOs unheard of, no it's not, I have them, against the same person. And I found out when I read the court transcripts, when the police prosecutor asked this patient how she had all of my information, she told them at a later date that the nurse who successfully applied for the nun position was the nurse who disclosed my address to the AVO patient. And it gets better. I'll leave the best coming up shortly. So health service management used a complaint from the nurse who became numb and a subsequent complaint by the AVO client. I've been put to the Healthcare Complaints Commission not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the last one was from the AVO client because I took out the AVO on her. It's a joke. So they use these situations. If you raise a hand and say this is wrong or you upset someone high up, they use situations to crucify you. So they were used then to level further allegations against me, despite a health service policy of 0 tolerance of violence or threats against staff. Please. So my decision to take out an AVO was used to allege, amongst other things, that I was unable to maintain a therapeutic alliance with my clients. So I knew when I initially stood up to unfair treatment that there may be some repercussions, but I had no idea that the very policies and procedures and agencies and reporting lines aimed at promoting quality, best practice and accountability could be manipulated to suit the unethical to their own ends. I was subjected to a number of fraudulent and vexatious complaints aimed none too subtly at destroying me and restoring the unhealthy status quo within that workplace. Line management structures exist to create order, maintain operational efficiency and accountability, and to facilitate best practice health service delivery. When issues of concern are raised with managers, managers have an obligation to treat the matter seriously, fairly and impartially. Paramount to the effective functioning of a service/system is the ability of managers to stamp out partiality, nepotism and inconsistency in applying policies and procedures. It really does beg belief. Is this what they really believe? In the face of such widespread problems, do they think that words on paper is going to work? We treat our colleagues and patients with dignity and respect, and we care about those around us. Each of us is responsible for workplace culture and performance. We have zero tolerance for bullying, and no one, no matter how senior, is exempt. It's a circus. Now, if it was just me being subjected to this type of treatment, I might be convinced this was all my fault. However, in the past few years at Broken Hill Health Service alone, more than 50 nurses have left or been pushed out by senior management and their tactics of bullying. And this problem exists all over Australia. I must say, the problems in nursing didn't really gain a lot of attention or traction in the media until a local doctor was also subjected to similar treatment and raised awareness. The good old gag order. No one's gagging me. The issue is now subject of a Senate inquiry. So I'll now attempt quickly, because I know my legs are going to get chopped off, to put forward some constructive suggestions as I wrap up my presentation. And by doing so, I'll talk about the logical process, the reality, the alternate universe, which I'm well acquainted with, and the fallout. The alternate universe that people visit when there is nowhere else to go, and as I've just mentioned, the fallout that comes with going there. The logical process for problem solving within any system should be pretty obvious. We've all worked with the accreditation and continuous quality improvement cycles that pervade the system. This is the ideal though, because simplistic models for quality improvement are often much more difficult to implement in practice. In reality though, I believe the process that is supposed to promote safety, productivity, accountability and quality management is fundamentally corrupted with a capital C. The reality for me and many of my nursing and health colleagues is that the system is being abused for the personal gains of a select few, and bureaucrats are either incapable or unwilling to do much about it. This is a reality. The reality is demonstrated by people who have responded to a petition that I have launched to highlight and bring awareness to the problem after a colleague was caught up in this toxic culture and became extremely suicidal. I don't have to say anything because over 5,400 people have signed my petition and agree with me, and the numbers are growing all the time. The system has totally failed to provide accountability and safe work practices and tolerates bullying at the highest level. This is me, the New South Wales nurse whistleblower. So this is what happens when a system tries to oppress people for too long. And this is going to happen today. Eventually someone will take a stand, and then someone else, and another, and another. We are beyond crisis point, and the elephant in this room is about to lead a stampede. But doing so is not without risk. This is the fallout. And the cost of standing up for what's right is real and painful.
Thank you, Anne.
I just want to finish, please. I'm going to do the Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. I'm not finished. I've had to sell my house, move interstate and leave my children behind. I've missed going with my eldest daughter when she has her ultrasound scans. I don't see my grandson or children anywhere as near as often I would like to. I've uprooted my life in an attempt to find a safe place to live and work. And thankfully for me, I've found employment in a place where my contribution is valued and appreciated, and I enjoy my work. On reflection, I am one of the lucky ones. I managed to get out alive,